Welcome to The Current. Today's guest is someone who's built and continues to build an impressive scaling business in the trade sector. Now, what they've built didn't happen by accident. Alongside her husband, they've grown from the ground up into a 25 plus person operation, pushing towards 30 staff. Navigating growth, systems, culture, and the reality of leading a serious team. Now, scaling the business isn't glamorous. It's systems, pressure, people, and responsibility. And today, we're talking to someone who's lived and breathed that journey from day one. Sophie from CS Heating. Welcome to The Current. How are you, Sophie?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. We're really looking forward to this. So, Sophie, let's go back to the beginning. Would you be able to just give us a little bit of a brief overview about the very early days of CS Heating and what maybe a typical day would look like?
Yeah, no problem. We started the business a long time ago. We had a very young son at the time, and I was working in children's centres, a very different job from plumbing and heating. My husband was the plumbing and heating engineer, and he was working for a local business as a call out engineer. So he was working all of the hours that God sends, and then he was working for himself when he wasn't working for them. So we didn't really see each other very often. So we started a business to see more of each other and spend a bit more time together. Bizarrely, most people, don't start a business to get less busy. We seem to, but I just said to him, if you pay me what I'm earning, I will organise you. So that's how it started. We started at home in our conservatory, and yeah, we have grown it over the years now to we've got 25 staff. We're about to increase. So yeah, a typical day years ago was very different from days today. We had a physical diary, like a book diary that Calvin used to write in and tear off invoices that our engineers. We had about engineers to begin with. So Calvin was still working for this other company whilst we started. He was doing the sales, and we had a couple of guys working for us out on the tools, sort of a bit more subby based than what we have now. Yeah, and then we went from there. We've just naturally grown it over the years.
Yeah, I like that. I guess ultimately we get into business for different reasons, but if spending more time with your husband and your son, that's a really beautiful way to start. But a little question, was there a moment when you decided, hang on, this is serious, let's build it properly, not just to stay small and comfortable, because you could have just stayed 3 or 4 engineers, yourself and your husband. Was there a moment where you decided?
I think as you start to get bigger, I think we're achievers in life. We don't want to sort of plod along. We wanted more, but we also knew that we wanted more time to go on holiday and do nice things. And you can't be a busy fool. A lot of plumbers out there, we call them busy fools, not in a horrible way, but they're out on the tools. They're trying to answer the phone. They're trying to, they deal with customers. Customers are telling them that they're not turning up. They're not answering the phone and doing this kind of stuff. We didn't want to be that person. So we knew we had to sort of hit a pain point and grow beyond that, which is one of the reasons I came on board, really, to be the person who was answering the phone to customers. And then it naturally evolved from that. We sort of said, okay, I don't want to be working all the hours that God sends. Although you do naturally, but let's open an office. And yeah, we rented an office. So that was probably a year and a half in that we did that.
Wow, that's quite impressive, yeah. Now, you mentioned the pain of obviously running a business. Now, we know that with any growth, sometimes it does become a point where it feels a little bit overwhelming. Was there a particular moment where it began to think, we're about to hit a ceiling there, what are we going to do next? Is there anything in particular?
Yeah, we call it the glass ceiling in our business. I read the book years ago, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, I think it is, and he talks quite a lot about glass ceilings. And yeah, I think we didn't notice that we were going through it at the time, apart from the fact that there was another guy who's got a local business which was about the same size as ours, and we knew him quite well. And he sort of said, "I'm giving up. I'm giving up." He had 5 or 6 engineers. He said, I'm just going to go and work for myself because I can earn as much money as I can by myself and have no hassle. And I think that was the point that we knew that actually we've pushed through that. So I think you get a couple more engineers and then you're like, "Oh, I don't have to work. I don't have to do everything for everyone. And there is light at the end of the tunnel." But there's definitely a point that most engineers get to. I think that they're like, I can go and knock 3 boilers in a week and earn as much money as I'm earning now, because you don't earn much at all as a business owner for the first 5 years, definitely, we didn't take very much money out of the business at all for the first 5 years.
I guess it's more of a stepping back to take a step forward, investing in yourself and the business.
Yeah, massively. I think, you have to, we were talking this morning, you have to continually learn and continually take that step back and look at where you are. And you can get so caught up in your own world of doing everything and, it's all going to be done my way and I've got to do this, that all of a sudden you're in it and not on it. They say work on your business and not in your business. And it is very true.
Yeah, I like that. So, out of interest, why do you think, like your example of that person that you mentioned, why do you think many people do give up or shrink at that point instead of pushing through? What do you think?
I think part of it is maybe they don't like working with people. People are hard to work with. Staff are hard to manage. You've got to understand people. I think that's where me and Calvin sort of work well together, is that I came from a background of childcare and working in children's centres. So dealing with vulnerable families, going into people's houses, talking to them. So I brought in that whole, let's talk to the engineers. Engineers are out on their own all day. They don't see each other very often. So I brought in team meetings, is what I used to have with Ensure Start. So we had a get together where everybody was empowered, and then supervisions. So they have a monthly supervision where they talk to us, and then that stops all the Chinese whispers and stuff, which then allows you to grow your business because you're hearing it from the horse's mouth, and so are they.
I like that. I guess it's using your past experience and then implementing that in your current business. And it sounds like you really develop a family culture.
Massively, yeah. I mean, you spend all of your time at work, more time at work than you do with your family. So I think it's really important for us that our staff feel like they're a member of the family. My husband was ill a couple of years ago and he had cancer, and we knew it was going to really disrupt everything from the point of view of our emotions, if nothing else. And our staff were the first people we told, because we were like, this is going to be nasty. We don't know what road we're going to go on, but we don't want you to be badly affected by it. So yeah, they're definitely an extension of our family.
Thank you for sharing that personal experience. How important is it that you maintain this, especially as a business grows from 10 to 15 to 20 plus employees?
Yeah, it's really, really important. And we're definitely in a growth spurt at the moment within the business. There's lots of areas that are growing and changing. And I think it's really important to keep that personal level with staff and, yeah, that family environment, because you've got to hold on to it without holding on to it too tight. You've got to empower the staff sort of below you to be able to empower the staff below them. It's really important to keep your culture and your vision and your mission and everything, and get that going down through everyone. So yeah, I think we use it as, we are a family business, but you are a member of our family, and then we hope that bleeds through into the family, into the business.
Empowering people, it sounds like that's what you guys do well.
Be happy.
Yeah, that's a good point in the business, happy businesses. You mentioned you're experiencing a bit of growth right now, which is amazing for any business. But we know obviously with growth comes challenging. I just want to know roughly at the moment, where are you finding the pressure comes? Maybe more engineers, which more admin or systems or
Right. There's lots of different difficult bits at the moment. I would say the we've got a commercial side of the business that's growing. It's very not challenging, but it's something new for us. We have never been commercial engineers, so we've been running that side for about 2 years. So that's quite difficult. Processes is the other massive thing. Trying to get processes down on paper is really hard, but in a way that everyone understands them, because you can write all the processes you like. Nowadays you can use AI and have it all streamlined, but trying to get those processes working well is probably our biggest challenge at the moment.
yeah, I guess and then having these processes will allow you to scale, take on more people when it comes to training and internal. Yeah, makes sense. So how important would you say it is that a company, because let's be honest, it takes time and an invest into developing these processes if they want to grow?
It's imperative. You have to do it. You can't grow without processes, because you know the more people you get on board, the more ideas you have, and the more, if you look at people across the world, we're all different. We all have different ideas and visions and views. If you tell somebody, I don't know, to go and pick up a spoon. We're all going to do it in different ways. So it's really important that we have those processes down so they know what to do and how to do it. One of our big things is, turning up, engineers turning up to the door. They've got to turn up with a toolbox, a dust sheet, and a sticker for the boiler, and shoe covers. Um, Now, not everyone will do that. Half of our engineers be like, "Why? Why do I need a dust sheet? I'm not doing a job that requires a dust sheet." And it's like, it's not about the dust sheet; it's about your appearance and how you come across to the customer. So it's those little things that, if you don't put them in place, get lost.
Yeah, and I guess it's about having that standardized across a growing team so your standards are kept high across all of your installations. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it's really important. I mean, I think it's a fine line. You could have a holy grail Bible. I think there are some businesses out there that have, you've got to look like this and do this. And you don't want to stump people's creativity and their ability to do the job. Because if you could tell people too much, then they'll go, well, we're not allowed to do that. You don't want that. You want people to use their brains and do a good job to their ability, but also you don't want them off on a tangent doing something completely different to your values.
Of course, I like that. I guess it's balance and everything.
Mm.
Sophie, I'd like to just pick up on something you said a second ago. Now, you mentioned that buzzword of AI. Now, obviously, we know it's changing the world for good or for worse. I'm not quite sure yet. How do you feel about this sort of technology and the uses, whether it could be or should be used within a business, and the benefits or the cons?
Quite excited by it, really. Do you think we should be cautious with it? But I think it's quite exciting. I think it's not going to take people's jobs if people learn how to use it. I think there's a lot of people who say, oh, it's going to take all the jobs. I don't think so. If you know how to use it, it's always going to need people to input in it. But from our point of view, I use it a lot, an awful lot. Dog walking. I'll go for a dog walk every morning and I take AI with me. I have a chat with ChatGPT and say, these are my goals for the day. This is what I want to achieve. And it will just put it into sense for you. So on a sort of a personal business level, that's pretty amazing. I can standardize meetings and stuff like that. And then we are looking currently at telephone systems.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to really change. That will be quite interesting to see how it works across the board, because I think all businesses are going to have AI answering their phones.
Yeah, yeah. And what do you think the benefit is of that? I'm curious.
Well, it's like we were talking about processes. It standardizes everything from a point of view of customers ring up, they get the same voice, the same people. They can be put in the same direction. But yeah, it keeps everything how you want it to be. But I think you've got to be able to, like I say, put stuff in the back end and have people at the end of it as well. I think we will get to the point where we're like, I just want to speak to a person.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's going to change the business dramatically. People will be able to book online. It will mean, from a point of view of travel for our engineers, that's quite a big thing. They travel all across Kent. So trying to get the flow of their day is quite hard. So AI should make that a lot easier.
It's definitely a lot of benefits. And I think you're exactly right. Keeping that human in the loop, as they say, and also using it for the right reasons to actually give your customers more, to give them 24/7 availability, whereas some will need to sleep. That voice agent never needs to sleep. And again, it is going to change it, but I guess it's having these processes in the place.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, we know a lot of people probably think about you, they think about the great success you guys are having and the growth, but they probably don't always see the pressure. What do people not see? Maybe is there anything, an instance, talk about where pressure is showing up in your day-to-day life? Maybe the realities of running a business.
Gosh. Yeah, I mean, yeah, everyone does say, oh, you're so successful, or you work really hard. That's a good one. It's not about just working hard. It's about working smarter and looking at yourself, I think. We've evolved this sort of a conference we have in the morning. I mean, we sit in bed talking about business. That's all we ever talk about. Our son's like, can you stop talking about business, please? Can you just But it's what gets us excited. It's what gets us out of bed. So that pressure there from, I need to be somebody else apart from the business owner, I find it quite heavy in a way. We need to make sure that we're people as well as just the business, because if the business all went tomorrow, where would we be? But the pressure, I'd say one of the other biggest pressures is the financial pressures. No one sees when you hit wages and you've got to suddenly find more than your first mortgage ever was to pay everybody's bills, and the money's not there and you've got to find it. I think those pressures are really tough.
Yeah, thank you for being honest, especially about the realities, because you're right. We can see that you're very passionate about your business. We know you and your husband, and it sometimes can encroach on the reality of life. We have a business. We created this business in the first place, like you did, to have more time in your life, but sometimes you can overcome that. But it's good in a way. It shows you're passionate.
Yeah, I mean, it's a roller coaster. It is a roller coaster. Sometimes you're all in. And we have weeks where we're all in 24/7. We work, work, work. But then we have the luxury that in the summer, I mean, we've got a business that is quieter in the summer. In the summer, we have time off. So that's quite nice.
I guess that's a perfect time to have time off as well in the summer as well.
It is, yeah.
Now, if you'd allow me, Sophie, I want to do a quick, short fire, rapid question. So if you can, give me a quick answer to these questions. So they'll be
Right.
quite short and punchy. So you just give me the first thing that comes into your head and maybe the first reason why. So systems or people? What's
People,
first? People and why?
always, because people are more important than systems. I enjoy being around people and working with people. And I think you can have all the systems in the world and they might not work as people. People is just warmer.
People make the business, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rapid growth or steady stability?
Growth, I think. Growth is more exciting. Steady stability would be nice, but I think, I think as a business owner, steady stability is not what you get in for. I think growth is much more exciting.
I agree with you. I agree. Culture or cash flow?
Culture, definitely. I think that goes with the people, really. Yeah, it, it's all life is all about people and how you feel around things. So I think, yeah, cash flow. If you do it well, it will come.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for that rapid fire question. It's just good to get us thinking. Now, if you had to give some advice to maybe a younger couple, or maybe not younger, about starting, maybe going from being self-employed, starting their own business, worrying about how to start, what advice would you give them?
I would say if it terrifies you, do it. The other day just made somebody a managing director of our company. It absolutely terrified us. We were like, okay, this is quite scary. This is the next level. And then we knew it was right. So I think as long as it's something that doesn't scare you in a negative way, if it, if you can find that you are pushing against yourself, it's probably something you need to do. So be brave and jump in and see what happens. And if you fail in so many things as you do a business. They say fail forward, learn from it. It's never a fail if you're learning from it. And if you don't fail, then you haven't tried hard enough.
I like it. That's a great mentality to approach not just business, but life, I guess. Thank you very much. Now, Sophie, I always like to take people in the back of my DeLorean. Now, I want to take you to the 1st of January 2027. You're looking back at 2026, and it's been a genuinely incredible year. You've had that expansive, quick growth that you wanted. You've kept the culture. You kept the cash flow. You felt fulfilled. You've managed to find a balance between work and personal life. It's been a genuinely successful year, both personally and business-wise. Now, what would have to happen to make that year true for you?
I love the 1st of January. That's vision board day. We do a vision board in our family. That's quite good. Business growth. I think the business needs to take a massive step forward. It needs its culture to grow a little bit. I think people need to naturally grow within the business. And then the commercial side, I want it to hit 1 million, which is more than possible. And then I think the sales need to get stronger as well. So I think within the business, it's not just about the money. I think the teams are naturally growing. So in 2027, if we look back and we were a bigger team, then we were successful, as long as we were a bigger team that we can afford. I just want it to be a more grown-up business. I think you, it does that. Like a graph goes up and up. So I think it's as long as the graph in 2027 looks like that, then I will be happy. Everything needs to be done properly. Like you say, keeping the culture, keeping the good family business that we have. And then personally, I think I will have been on quite a few holidays and the business would have run well while we were away. And then I need to do a high rocks. That's my personal goal for 2026.
Amazing. Now, Sophie, we have no doubt if we had this conversation next year, you'll be telling me just how you did it, how you smashed your high rocks in under an hour and a half,
I don't think I'll be that good, but I'll try.
how the business reached more than 1 million in the commercial sector, how the culture actually improved and the people. And do you know why? It's because of people like yourself and your husband. You're people that were willing to take the risk in the beginning. You saw an opportunity, you pushed through that glass ceiling. You didn't allow things like cash flow or big wages to scare you, but instead, like you said, you're always committed to learning, to being a better person and a better business owner, developing that team culture, keeping in, checking in, empowering your people. I think your story is really inspiring, and I think there's so many lessons we can all learn. So I just want to thank you so much for you and your husband doing what you're doing, continuing, we know, giving that dust sheet boiler sticker service from the very beginning to the very end. So thank you so much for coming on to the current Sophie. We really appreciate you and everything you're doing.
Perfect. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.